Welcome to the Broker Podcast with Jack Stapleton, founder, co-owner, and broker of Realty Texas, one of America's most respected independent real estate firms. Early in his career, Jack was named Realtor of the Year, top producer, and helped over 1,000 families buy and sell properties. Later turned industry leader and broker, Jack founded Realty Texas and built it into an empire with over 400 agents, tens of thousands of transactions closed, with billions in production. As former board president, NLS chairman, real estate instructor, software engineer, and technology innovator, Jack knows what it takes to succeed at every level. Everyone thinks they know real estate. Few actually do. This is real leadership and proven results. Welcome to the Broker Podcast.
Welcome to the Broker. Good afternoon, and thank you for attending the Broker Podcast. With me today is a very, very special guest, Mary Beth Ray, a real estate agent in Central Texas. Welcome.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
It is really good to finally have you in the chair. I've been
Sorry,
look.
you have asked.
Well, I mean, you're someone that's is really well known in our marketplace. You've been in the business for a while now.
Yeah, this is my 10th year. Well, yeah.
What is the biggest lesson you've learned in the last 10 years?
Oh, goodness. Early on, very wise person who's been a great mentor to me said, from every deal you do, to ask yourself, what did you learn and what can you do differently? And she said that could be good and bad. You don't always have to have a bad situation, but you can always make something better. And so with every deal, I reevaluate it and I look at it and think, what could I have done differently or better to have made that gone smoother or better or, at a different, just even better. I always believe that we can never be perfect, but we can certainly always be better.
What sets you apart?
I would like to say my faith, because I really believe that every day I get up and ask God to help me put Him first and to give me the opportunity to be a light for Him, for the kingdom. And that if that through somebody through real estate or through, just people I meet in the grocery store line or something, that somebody always needs a smile. They need somebody to just help make their day better. So I feel like that by doing that just makes, if you help other people do better, then you do better.
So leading through a life of service?
That is my love language. Acts of service. Oh, definitely.
So you've really dialed in your business, probably in the last 5 years. Would you agree with that?
Yes.
So what has allowed you to take your business to the level that it's at right now? What has really been the driving force behind that?
Probably my love and commitment to my neighborhood. I really, kind of give you a backstory that when I met Mary Metz, he already had a house in Edgar Acres.
You met who?
My husband Metz.
Okay. And how long have you been married?
47 years last week.
Okay, that's phenomenal. Congratulations.
And we were married in downtown.
And he's also what?
He's also a realtor on my team. He absolutely is. So, anyway, we got married in downtown Roanoke when I had one blinking light. It was a very small town. But there was Edgar Acres, houses in downtown Roanoke, and then houses had started being built in the late 70s in Roanoke West. And obviously that was considered the nice part of town. And I, being young, and said, why didn't you buy in Roanoke West? And he laughed because he paid $40,000 for his house in Edgar Acres. He goes, that's all I could afford. And I wasn't paying $60,000 to buy a house in Roanoke West. So it only took me almost 40 years, but we eventually bought a house in Roanoke West. So I don't know how to explain it, but I just feel like I do tell people when they come to my open houses, from the outside looking in, you don't understand it. From the inside looking out, you can't explain it. And once I lived there, then I really understood that, because it's just a really, really close-knit community of all ages of people. It's very special people.
I have a lot of agents coming to me asking for my advice on how they can start a farm and start geographically farming a neighborhood. And one of the pieces of advice that I've always given them is find a neighborhood that you love. Because if you can find a neighborhood you love, that's where the passion is going to come from.
Yeah.
I've had agents jump on new neighborhoods because they were new. We had an agent that was farming sienna when it was a brand new neighborhood. No passion for it. So it absolutely went nowhere. So you obviously have an incredible amount of passion for Round Rock West. It comes from all of that history that you have. I know it has a sense of community, but let's just dig a little bit deeper about the passion that you have. Where does that come from?
Um, well, I'm president of the neighborhood association, which is voluntary. It's not one of those HOAs. And yes, as soon as I moved in, I was asked if I would be, there was an opening as vice president. And I was like, okay, what's involved? Well, like anything, you volunteer and then you find out what's involved. And I just realized that to keep people connected, you just have to do newsletters and do, like, we put out flags and just get to know people, that whenever you find out that people need something. And in today's world, and I don't like technology, but I am on Facebook and the neighborhood has a Facebook group. So a lot of times that's how you find out when people need something or have unfortunate circumstances going on. And so I love to reach out and help people in difficult situations. And so the more that you get to know people, then I don't know, the closer the community you have. So,
And there again comes that life of service.
yes, it is.
Right there, focused on the neighborhood that you live and turning a neighborhood into a community.
Yes. So we do lots of events. Like we always do. We used to just do one garage sale a year. Now we do two because people felt like the spring is too crazy for some of them, with people with kids in school and into school and that kind of stuff. But when kids go back to school, they start cleaning out their closets and cleaning out stuff. So now we do one in late September, early October. But we also, at the same time, always do National Night Out. And it used to be nothing. And what I've learned is, to be a good leader, you have to be a good delegator.
Yes.
And so I have learned to just really ask and sometimes beg, but I've got a lot of really good people who I find what their strengths are. And so I've got a really good leader for National Night Out. I got a really good leader that was former military for our 4th of July parade that we do. We do our own little parade. If you find the right people who do, I don't have to do anything because they handle all those events. I'm just kind of the one that sends out the notices and posts the stuff and that kind of stuff.
And sometimes it's not really about delegation. It's about inspiring other people to serve.
That is true.
And that's what you're really doing, is inspiring people around you to also serve and also get involved, so that you are not the I in team, that you're building a team of people that want to serve with you.
That's right.
From your own service, which is a beautiful thing.
Thank you.
So talk to me about your city service. I know that you are really passionate about advocating for your community in front of the city council, in front of the mayor. And I know that there's been some issues with some industry that was moving in nearby and wanted to know how that was going to affect your community. And you took that directly to the city council. Talk to me about that.
We did. And yes, because when I first married Bits, he lived across the street from the then mayor in 1979. And so through him and his wife, I met wonderful people who obviously, in fact, I joined their bunco group. A lot of those women were the wives of the city council people. Yeah. So it's kind of funny to have watched the history of over the years. And, our kids were different ages and, we move, even though around town, different places, they kind of come in and out of your life. So when I moved back into Round Rock West, I did what's called the university, and it's the neighborhood services, which I think you went to the event that they do this year. And so they teach you all about the different departments. And so in doing that, and I think it's been almost 10 years ago since I did that you learn all the department heads and the connections. And if you're going to serve in your neighborhood, you kind of need to know that when somebody barrels through a fence and is knocked down and it's one of the ones that's on the city side, or you have some incidences that you can call if it's a transportation, or if who you're supposed to call when there's certain issues. So in doing that, and we did have Amazon was coming, that Robinson land that's been there forever and ever and ever, 192 acres, all of a sudden up and was for sale and sold to Amazon. And Amazon did reach out to me and said that they wanted to talk about it. What they didn't tell me at the time was that they had already bought it. They told me they were exploring it. So we put together a meeting, and that, of course, our neighborhood is 1,542 homes. And normally we get anywhere from 50 to 65 people that will come to our regular meetings. Well, that one we knew we were going to have a lot. So I had to change the meeting location and make arrangements with the school. And we met, and Amazon came, and then we formed a committee because there was, about a dozen or so people who were very concerned. They were concerned it was going to affect their property taxes. They were concerned about the traffic that's going to come through the neighborhood. a lot of list of concerns. So we met regularly, or they did, and they would report back, and then we would go down to city council, or we would meet, have planning and zoning come to our meetings. They would tell us what Amazon was telling them. And through 2 or 2.5 years of meetings, it eventually, because what Amazon wanted was to be annexed to the city, because they wanted the city services.
Sure.
And then, of course, with my real estate experience, the other reason they wanted it's because the easements that the city had on that property, they wanted to move so they could build where they wanted to build on that. So that was another reason why. Why would the city move it if they didn't, annex it and pay taxes to it? Because, Amazon could have just built what they wanted to build. Now, yes, around those easements, but then they would not have been accountable to anybody. So I was able to help people see both sides of it in the community as people were upset about, well, look at it this way from Amazon side, look at it this way from the city side. And then the city and Amazon were really very amicable about they want to be a good neighbor. And so in the end, yes, they built, they finished, and they reached out to me when they were almost finished and wanted to invite us to an open house. So I put together an invitation. What they didn't plan on was how many people wanted to attend. And at 50, she panicked and said, "What? No, because everybody's got to wear closed-toe shoes and hard hats." And I said, "Well, just get on Amazon and order some." In 3 hours. She laughed. She said, "You're so funny, Mary Beth." And I said, "Well, I mean, that's what y'all do. Y'all deliver in 3 hours." So anyway, we ended up with having to cap it at 100. But it was a really great tour. We literally got taken through the whole tour. They showed us from the top to the bottom and how it's going to work. And I'm really glad that I had that experience. So that was very exciting.
Well, I'm sure the neighborhood and Amazon were both grateful for you being able to be an intermediary for the communication and the conversation. So people weren't coming at them with pitchforks. They were coming at them with someone who would listen.
Yeah.
And be able to explain what's going on, because growth is good. And what could have been put there could have been a lot worse.
Right. Well, recently I had to talk to the mayor about something, and he laughed. He said, "Mary Beth, I will bet you hit more calls and emails than I do as the mayor." Because, he has all the different departments.
Yeah.
And while, yes, I have a vice president and a secretary and a treasurer, they just don't take the calls and the emails that I do. But I just feel like I have enough experience and knowledge and history living here that then people recognize and understand. In fact, the mayor did not know that I used to live across the street from the mayor in the late 70s. He also did not know that Shadowbrook, which is the only HOA part of Roanoke West, there are 98 homes. And when it was built, it was because when Larry Tunn lived there, they wanted to live in an HOA, and they worked with the Robinsons to niche out that little bitty section that at the time, obviously, was just Robinson land, but that's how Shadowbrook came about. And he said, "I had no idea." So we had a funny conversation on the phone when he had called me. Just, "I always learn something from you." So it's good to have those connections. I mean, it's really important to know, because they respect you and they know that you're not going to come barking and demanding, and, you could catch a lot more flies with honey than vinegar.
So let's talk about another situation that was going on in your neighborhood that you again championed. The last legislative session, Texas passed some pretty, I'm not going to say sweeping changes, but they clarified sign ordinances and standardized the fees across the state. A lot of people thought that the state of Texas created what they call bandit sign rules, but really all they said is the rules are still going to be managed by the local municipalities. We're just going to standardize and promulgate the fines if someone has a real estate sign or some kind of sign floating out there for multiple days. And obviously, real estate signs, the for sale signs and the open house signs are important for home sellers.
Absolutely.
And there were some issues going on that made that possibly in jeopardy, and you championed that. So let's talk about that.
Okay. So in my neighborhood, yes, I like to put out a lot of signs, and because we are not an HOA, and I have to remind people, we are in the city, so we have to follow city ordinances. Mm-hmm. And there's a lady down at the city that's been there, she says, since she was 16. And I won't tell you how old she is now, but she thinks she's the mayor's boss.
I love it. Okay.
And anyway, she actually called me one day because I like to do Friday night open houses. I have great success with those, from 5 to 7 people on their way home from work and whatever. And she called me and she let me know that I was not special and that I'm not allowed to have signs out because the city ordinance is from noon on Saturday till 6 p.m. and noon on Sunday till 6 p.m. And I wanted to know who made that rule. She said it didn't matter. It was a rule. So fast forward a few months, or I don't know how long, but our local Wilco, I guess 5 Points now, had speakers there, and one was the mayor, one was the chief banks, city of Round Rock, and the other was the superintendent of our school district. So there were 3 speakers. There was probably 150 or 200 of us realtors in that room. It was a packed crowd, and the mayor took his whole 30 minutes and then some. So then they moved on to the next one and the next one. But at the very end, they said, we're going to give you a few more minutes for question and answer. So I stood up and darted, and because the mayor knows me, he goes, hang on, I want to take Maribeth's question. And so I asked, what's the deal with the sign? He goes, who made that rule? I said, that's what I want to know. And so he said, well, I'm going to get with my city manager because I don't know about that rule. But he goes, will you email me? He goes, I will get on this. So afterwards, was leaving and talking with someone else, and he came up to me and said, I promise you I'm going to be on this. So he called me about a week later. He asked me some more questions because the city manager and the city attorney, I guess, asked because they couldn't figure out why this was an ordinance. And he asked me what I was needing. I said, well, Friday nights would be good. He goes, well, if I ask for every day of the week, will that help? And I said, well, yeah, but I'll take Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and Mondays are holidays. And so he laughed. So he said, well, I'm going to make this happen. So again, we had some other issues that came up in the neighborhood and stuff that we needed to resolve. And I actually had a house that was for sale that came up with a survey objection. And it was interesting. Of all the houses I've sold along the creek, this particular house has a hike and bike trail easement of 30 feet along the back, even though it's fenced in. It's there from 1977. And Glenn Means, who was Con-Ed Homes, he built my house, and he's built quite a few of those custom homes at my request, had platted it with the intentions of giving it to the city, but had not. Well, unfortunately, Glenn Means passed away last September. I used to have a cell number. I knew how to reach him, but went to my connection at City Planning and Development. He scratched his head, so he made some calls, sent an email, and pre-neighborhood services, Parks and Rec, because obviously that falls under.
Sure.
Every one of these department heads called me, and one morning I get a text from Craig Morgan at 6:11 in the morning that he says, we're going to figure this one out. He goes, and I'm still working on the easement, but supposedly it's going to be at the city council June 28th, that they are actually going to present it and vote on getting us the open house ordinance. And so I'm super excited.
You should be.
Because I have to go around for my Friday night open houses. I knock on doors and I ask them for permission because if it's in a private yard, the city lady can't take it, and she knows it. If it's in a public easement under a stop sign, she can take it.
Yeah.
And so I've gotten very creative, and I take little Starbucks cards or H-E-B cards, and when I knock, and they always tell me, nobody else asks. I'm like, well, I'm not nobody else. And so I have not had anybody tell me no to put them in their yards for my Friday night open house signs. So I keep doing it.
It's a thing, in our municipality here in Round Rock. They have sign ordinance, people driving around, and if they have a sign that is outside their ordinance or without a permit on it, they will just put it in their truck and take it to the nearest dumpster and throw it away.
Yeah.
So putting it in a private property ensures that won't happen, and knocking on the door and having conversations with the homeowners, asking them if you can put your sign in their yard, directing them to the open house. Sometimes the homeowners might not like that, but in your case, they know you. They're fine with it. So let's talk about the last couple open houses you've had, because you've got a few people showing up.
I've had quite a few people. The one, I guess Memorial Day weekend, I did Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, and we had over 100 groups. It was incredible.
Incredible.
It was so busy Friday night and then Saturday, and I had a lender that was helping me. My husband helped me. And by Sunday, I couldn't line up enough people to come help because I knew that it was just going to be busy. And in fact, I had a lady who called me, and she wanted me to visit with her about selling her mom's house. She lives in Massachusetts. She'd come down to visit. She saw all my open house signs and said, that's who I want to sell my house. So that was really exciting. And the one that is going active tomorrow, well, it went active on Monday on Central Texas, and tomorrow it's right down the street from my one 2 weeks ago. And they came in, stood in the kitchen very quietly, and then eventually said, can we talk to you for a minute? And I said, wow, I don't know how you got all these people, but we want to sell and we want you to sell it. I went, okay, well, let's make an appointment. So I scheduled a listing appointment and got it all done. And now we're, going to be active tomorrow, doing it all over again, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, even on Father's Day.
Congratulations on the success. I think when someone is watching someone do something great, then they step back and say, wow, I want that for me. And that's exactly what you have, is showcasing your services in front of your entire neighborhood over and over again. Seeing you champion the issues in front of the city council, going directly to the mayor, going directly to the relationships that you have at the different city offices to get things done for them. And then them sit back and watch the success that you have and the people that you have showing up, the homes that you've closed in your neighborhood, because you're consistently closing homes in your neighborhood. Then they sit back and think, who do I want as my real estate agent? Obviously, Mary Beth Ray. Obviously, you are the one that's going to help deliver success for them. So how are you communicating with them and, keeping the relationship alive? You said there's a bunco and some other things and other events going on, but, obviously regular communication with the entire neighborhood. You mentioned there's a Facebook group.
There is. And we really, our Facebook group is we don't allow business ads. So obviously I have to watch that fine line that I don't. But my clients, if I give them a flyer that said, hey, here, they can post that their house is up for sale. And they post my flyer with my name on
There is something to do with that.
So it's, it's a loophole, but, it's just like an electrician who's the husband of an agent here. He can't post directly, but somebody else can say, hey, I used so-and-so. And so as long as someone else is recommending, so I ask, and you just, James 4:2 says you do not ask because you do not ask. So I am not shy about asking people, would you please post this, or can you help me with this? And just like with the hike and bike trail easement that my client was really impressed at how I was like, okay, I didn't take no here and no here and no here. It's like, no. So finally I said, well, okay, because we weren't getting an answer. That was the biggest problem, was the buyer could have objected and said, no, we're not going to close, because it was very clearly platted. So we went down on a Tuesday morning to the city council, because they meet on Tuesday mornings at 7:30 to plan and confirm what's going to be on their Thursday night council meeting. And so we went, and we're only allowed to speak. They don't really speak back, but at least I got the attention. And one of the council women, she lives in the neighborhood on the loop. And another one, she's the daughter of the former mayor that I used to play bunco with. And so she happened to be mayor pro tem that day, because the mayor wasn't there. And she said, we normally don't speak, but Mary Beth, if y'all would go back there and catch Brad and Bradley, they can help you. And she said, we'll get an answer for you on this. So by that Thursday, I had a letter from the city explaining why it was never conveyed and that they have no intentions of ever planning that to be a hike and bike trail. So my clients were dancing a happy dance, and the buyers were fine. The other agent was very impressed with my connections. And so in the end, we're closing Monday. So all is good.
And you don't just help home sellers, you also help home buyers.
Yes, I do.
So what is the marketplace that you serve? More than just Round Rock West, I'm guessing.
Yes, I pretty much will go all over. I'm not comfortable with way down south like New Braunfels or San Antonio. I go north because my husband grew up in Belton. My son still lives in Belton. I have, obviously, all of his family is up there. And so pretty much that direction I will go, because I'm very competent in that area.
Well, let's define it, because we have people from all over the world watching you right now. They might not know where Belton is, so let's talk about it. Where is the definition?
Well, it's about 45 miles north, but see, New Braunfels is 45 miles south, but I don't know that area or the schools or the, what's going on with the city councils and that kind of stuff. And so I just really believe it's important to know the areas where you're going to be helping people. And because I know people who know people, they recommend me. And so, for example, I am selling one, and we're closing at the end of the month, on people who used to live in my neighborhood. They moved away, currently living in Colorado Springs, talked to their former next door neighbor who's next door to one of my listings I have for sale. And they said, well, if you're going to use anybody, you need to use Mary Beth Ray. So they called me, and after my open houses, my husband drove me down there while I'm looking stuff up. And so we're under contract for that house, and it's very exciting.
So it sounds like you are Greater Austin, Texas metro area.
Pretty much, yes.
Yeah.
Pretty much. Pretty much Central Texas, because I've lived in the Austin area since 78 and watched it change. I mean, I watched Mopac be built, so I'm going to show you my age there. My very first job in Austin, I had to go through construction zones and dirt roads, because a lot of it was That's what it was, right along the railroad track.
Us has gone through a huge metamorphosis in one of the greatest cities in the world right now and winning lots of awards for being it. And you
Yes.
are an Austin native, being born and raised in Round Rock, very proud to be in the Williamson County area, helping lots of buyers and sellers with their real estate.
So I try. So I consider it my home, and I love Round Rock. I still consider it a small town, but I guess my neighborhood to me is like Mayberry in the middle of Round Rock. And so it's just, I guess it is what you make it. And so you can choose to be a hermit and hide behind your four walls, but I don't. I like to be involved and like to be around people and be out there in the public. And I certainly love helping people. So what better way than help them buy or sell or lease a house? Because everybody's got to live somewhere.
I mean, they need a roof over their head.
Yeah.
Exactly right.
You know, so.
Well, thank you.
Okay.
Thank you for sharing a little bit about your business, about your faith and your family on the Broker podcast. And we'd love to have you back.
Okay. I would love to do that.
If you'd love to reach out to Mary Beth Ray, I'm going to go ahead and put the information above here. You can reach out to her by phone or email. Again, thank you everyone for hanging out with us on the Broker podcast, and we'll see you on the next one. Thank you, Mary Beth.
Thank you.